Hey guys, tonight we're doing something a little different. Good news? You've just landed on a Star Wars planet. Bad news? It's Mustafar, and you're probably not going to make it to sunset. In this video, we're exploring the forgotten corners of the galaxy by imagining you, just a regular person, trying to survive a day on some of the most bizarre and hostile planets the Star Wars universe has to offer. So, sit back, grab a warm drink or a snack, and let the galaxy fade around you. And if you enjoy slow journeys through strange history, feel free to subscribe. Also, let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from. It's always fun to see where Star Wars fans are watching from across the galaxy. Now, let's begin. Congratulations! You've just woken up on Mustafar, a planet so hot, so angry, so deeply cursed, even the shadows seem to sweat. Your eyes flicker open, but you don't need them to feel the danger. The heat presses against your skin like 1,000 tiny suns, and the air tastes like smoke and iron. You're already coughing before you even sit up. There's ash in your lungs, lava on the horizon, and somewhere, deep beneath the crust, a heartbeat of fire that never, ever sleeps. The ground you're laying on is solid black obsidian. It's beautiful in a deadly sort of way. Razor sharp, smooth like glass, but with cracks running through it, glowing red from the magma underneath. It looks like the planet is wounded, bleeding, breathing, angry. Welcome to Mustafar, the planet where hope goes to melt. You try to stand, but the soles of your boots are already softening. The heat isn't just above you, it's coming from below, from all sides. This planet doesn't just radiate heat, it is heat. The kind that cooks meat in minutes, the kind that softens steel, the kind that makes your bones feel heavier. You're not alone, by the way. The planet's alive in a way that's hard to describe. The lava bubbles like it's whispering secrets. The rocks shift like they're watching you. Some people say the force feels strange here, twisted, angry, heavy. And they're right, because Mustafar is not just a hot rock in space. It's a planet transformed by suffering. Long ago, this world was a lush living place, full of water, forests, and life. A peaceful world, until the Sith came. The ancient dark cult, known as the Dark Side Adepts, once performed rituals here that fractured the very balance of the Force. Mustafar was torn apart, its core destabilized, its surface cracked open, and the dark energy never left. It only grew stronger. The Sith chose this planet for a reason. Pain, rage, loss, they echo louder here than anywhere else in the galaxy, and no one knew that better than Darth Vader. You feel the pull, don't you? In the distance, rising from a cliff, above a roaring lava fall, stands the silhouette of a fortress. It's jagged, towering, and looks less like it was built and more like it clawed its way from the ground. Vader's castle. Not a place of peace, a monument to pain. He built it atop the exact spot where his old life ended, where Anakin Skywalker burned and Darth Vader was born. He came back here again and again. Some say it was to meditate. Some say to torture himself with memories. Others say the planet whispered to him, that it showed him things, impossible visions, ancient Sith secrets, maybe even the key to defeating death itself. But don't get too excited, you won't be learning any of those secrets, because just breathing here is a miracle. The oxygen is thin, the ash is thick, the ground shakes every few minutes. Geysers of molten rock can burst from the ground without warning, showering the sky with fire. It's beautiful, in the way a dying star is beautiful, all-consuming, final, and absolutely indifferent to your presence. You check your gear, your canteen is boiling, your scanner's shorted from the heat, your communicator is dead. There's no signal, no help, no ships in orbit, and even if there were, who would dare land here? The native life, what little exists, is hostile. There are lava fleas, enormous beetle-like creatures that burrow beneath the surface. There are fire wasps, creatures that can live in open flame. Even the plants, like the ash orchids, are sharp, poisonous, and usually on fire. And then there are the whispers. Not from the wind, not from any creature, from the planet itself. Some believe Mustafar has a soul, that the dark side rituals awakened something, that the planet became a conduit, a place where time, pain, and power all blur, where dead Sith speak, where memories twist into hallucinations, where your worst fears become real. You start walking, but every step feels heavier, like gravity is stronger here, like the heat is boiling your blood. You begin to wonder if this was a dream, or a test, or maybe punishment. After all, Mustafar doesn't welcome visitors, it devours them. And yet here you are, standing on the same burning ground where Vader once screamed in agony, where the lava watched him fall and rise again. And now, it watches you. The wind shifts, the temperature spikes, a distant geyser erupts, sending a pillar of fire roaring into the sky. You drop to one knee, not from reverence, from heat stroke. Your vision blurs. Congratulations, you've lasted 7 minutes, and now the lava gets closer. Mandalore, a grey drifting fog of particles that sting your lungs and coat your eyelashes. The ground beneath you is solid, but cracked and scorched, like it's still remembering the fire. The sky is a pale, sickly white, thick with clouds that never let the sun through. You are on Mandalore, or rather, what's left of it. Once this was the proud homeworld of the Mandalorian people, a civilization of warriors, artists and architects, known for their iron resolve and their Beskar-forged armor. But now, it feels like a graveyard. The surface is eerily silent, and the towering structures that once reached into the sky are twisted metal and melted stone. You don't hear birds or animals. There are none. The only thing that moves is the wind, and even that feels like it's looking for something it lost. You try to stand, but gravity here feels heavy, not because of physics, but because of memory. Mandalore carries weight, every inch of it soaked in ancient battles and brutal betrayals. There are no trees to hide under, no rivers to drink from, no sign of life, just the haunting echoes of war, humming through the scorched wreckage like a forgotten war chant. So, how did this happen? Mandalore was once vibrant, lush even. Before the wars, before the rise of their armor-clad culture, it had green landscapes and cities alive with creativity. But centuries of conflict, including civil wars between Mandalorians themselves, turned the planet into a barren husk. Then came the Jedi, then came the Empire, and each time, Mandalore was ground down further until it became what you're standing on now, a wasteland of ruin. The Great Purge, carried out by the Empire, was the final blow. It wasn't just about domination, it was about erasure. The Empire bombarded Mandalore with such intensity that the planet's very soil became toxic. Entire cities like Sundari, once capital of Mandalore's glory, were vaporized. Forests were turned to charcoal, rivers to acid, and the Mandalorian people? Scattered, hunted, their culture reduced to scattered clans and hidden warriors surviving in exile. You walk forward, careful not to step on collapsed walkways that lead into craters. Some say the air is breathable, others say it isn't. Truth is, no one really knows anymore, because so few dare to come back. The only ones who return are those with a purpose, a mission, a vow, or a death wish. Mandalore doesn't welcome you, it tests you, but not everything is gone. Beneath your feet, deep in the crust of the planet, Beskar still flows, the sacred metal of the Mandalorians, immune to blasters, capable of deflecting lightsabers. It's buried in veins like the bones of the world, and because of it, Mandalore will never be forgotten. Empires may rise and fall, but Beskar, that endures. It's the reason Mandalorians were feared, and it's the reason the galaxy could never fully destroy them. You stumble upon a half-buried statue. Its face is gone, but the shape is unmistakable. A Mandalorian helmet, weathered, worn, cracked, but still proud. And for a moment you feel like someone is watching you, not with malice, but with expectation. Like the ghosts of Mandalore are waiting to see what you'll do next. There's a rumor, passed down in whispers and half-truths, that the Mandalorians might return, that one day the clans will reunite, that Mandalore will rise again. But standing here, alone in the ash and silence, that future feels impossibly distant. Still, Mandalorians don't believe in easy endings. Their story is forged in fire, broken bones, and unshakable loyalty. They've been exiled, hunted, and nearly erased, but they always come back. Not because they're lucky, but because they refuse to die. So if you want to survive here, on Mandalore, you have to understand one thing. This planet doesn't care who you are. It doesn't care where you came from. It only cares if you can endure. Because here, survival is not granted, it's earned. And if you can't stand tall in the ash, then Mandalore will bury you in it. You've been walking for hours, your boots are covered in soot, your throat is dry from the dust in the air, and your skin feels like it's absorbing the pain of the planet itself. But then, you find it, a stairway, half collapsed, leading downward. The walls are cracked, but strong, stronger than they should be, and when you brush your fingers across the stone, you realize this is Beskar alloy. Whatever's down here, it was meant to last. You step carefully. The stairs creak underfoot, the silence pressing in. As you descend, the temperature drops. The chaos of the surface fades into stillness, and the deeper you go, the more you feel the weight of history, like the air is thicker with memory. Eventually, you reach a chamber, massive, circular, silent. This is one of the old Mandalorian vaults. Not many remember them. Even fewer survived the purge. These were the sacred places where armor was passed down, where the creed was spoken, where leaders once gathered to shape the fate of their people. The room is lined with alcoves, each containing armor remnants, rusted weapons, and hollow projectors, flickering with long-forgotten oaths. You kneel in front of a pedestal, and the projector activates. A flickering image appears. A Mandalorian warrior, helmeted, proud. His voice is distorted, broken by age, but you catch the words, "We are Mandalorian. The ash of our world is not our end, it is our beginning." Chills crawl up your spine. This planet might look dead on the surface, but its spirit lives down here, in the shadows, in the whispers, in the forge. Yes, the forge. You follow a narrow tunnel, deeper still, until you find it. A hidden Mandalorian forge, blackened from use, cold now, but intact. The anvil, the tongs, the fires, long dormant. This is where Beskar was shaped into armor, each piece carrying not just strength, but identity. Helmets weren't just protection, they were honor. Chest plates weren't just defense, they were legacy. You can almost hear the clang of hammer on metal. There's something sacred here. The kind of sacred that doesn't need temples or gods, just discipline, unity, and conviction. The forge wasn't merely a place to make armor. It was where Mandalorians reforged themselves. And yet, this place was also a target. During the Great Purge, the Empire didn't just bomb cities, they targeted forges, specifically. They knew. Destroy the forge, and you weaken the future. Wipe out the ability to pass on the way, and the next generation forgets who they are. And yet, this one survived, hidden deep, carved in secrecy, a symbol that not all flames were extinguished. You wander the forge chamber, noticing something strange. A wall with strange markings, old Mandalorian script, etched in deep red. You don't recognize all the words, but a phrase catches your eye. The dark must pass, but the fire will return. A prophecy? A promise? Many believe Mandalore is cursed, that the planet itself resists revival, that every time its people try to reunite, something tears them apart. The Jedi, the Sith, even Mandalorians themselves. It's not superstition, it's pattern, a cycle of unity, then betrayal, of pride, then collapse. But if the stories are true, then a new era may be forming. You remember Whispers, a lone Mandalorian with a child, a bounty hunter turned guardian, a clan of two. They say the forge was reignited, that the creed was spoken again, that the dark saber, the ancient weapon of Mandalore's true ruler, resurfaced. Maybe you're standing at the beginning of something, or maybe you're just trespassing in a tomb, because Mandalore isn't just a dead world, it's a planet that remembers everything, every betrayal, every oath, every outsider who came seeking glory and left in silence. And now you're here, a stranger in its bones, a visitor in its vault. What happens next? That depends on you. You could try to leave, but even the skies above Mandalore are dangerous. Orbit is filled with Imperial wreckage, floating minefields, and blockades that haven't moved in years. The Empire may be gone, but its scars linger in orbit like vultures. You could try to survive here, but water is scarce. Food is non-existent. Radiation in some areas spikes randomly. Some say creatures mutated by centuries of war still roam the ruins. Others say the only thing worse than the monsters are the ones who still call themselves Mandalorians, hiding in the ashes, testing those who dare return. You could stay in the vault, light the forge, relearn the creed. This is the way. The words ring louder here, as if they've been waiting. So maybe Mandalore isn't about comfort, or survival, or even peace. Maybe Mandalore is a trial, a place that asks one question, over and over, again and again. Will you endure? Because on this planet it's not enough to survive the day. You must survive the past, and the past on Mandalore never stays buried for long. You've just opened your eyes in a galaxy far, far away. The stars aligned, destiny called, and boom, here you are, on the icy wasteland of Hoth. Let's start with the good news. You're not on fire. There are no lava rivers, exploding volcanoes, or sudden lightning storms. You are technically alive. Now, the bad news? You are freezing to death. Slowly, quietly, miserably. Welcome to Hoth. The first thing you feel is the burn. Not heat, cold burn. That razor-sharp bite that starts in your fingertips and crawls through your bones like frost spiders, weaving their icy web inside your veins. You blink, your lashes snap together with tiny ice crystals. There's a strange crunching sound. It's your eyelids thawing. You sit up, slowly, wrapped in nothing but thin civilian gear, probably what you wore to bed. Not exactly Rebel Alliance regulation. No boots, no thermal gloves, no face wrap, no tauntaun, just you, in pyjama pants, standing on what might be the most inhospitable rock in the entire galaxy. The landscape is nothing, absolutely nothing. It stretches for miles in every direction, a white, howling void of snow and jagged ice. Hoth doesn't have cities, it doesn't have forests or oceans or cute desert outposts. It has wind, snow, more wind, and the occasional buried rebel base, emphasis on buried. If you're lucky, you'll find a rock to sit on before your kneecaps freeze in place. The wind hits you like a vibroblade. It screams around you with the force of a TIE fighter in a nosedive, ripping through your clothes and slapping your skin with wind chill that would make a wampa cry. You try to walk, but every step is exhausting. Your boots sink into the snow, which seems to be infinite layers deep, like some cruel galactic prank designed by Hoth's non-existent tourism board. You have no food, no shelter, and no friends. Just you, a horizon that doesn't move, and the creeping knowledge that you're on borrowed time. But that's just the weather. Let's talk about the locals. Somewhere in that blinding white is something watching you. Maybe it's moving just out of sight. Maybe it's already following your scent. It's called a wampa, a towering beast of muscle, claws, and permanent hunger, the kind of creature that pulls the arms off trespassers and hangs them upside down in frozen caves like refrigerated snacks. You remember that scene with Luke Skywalker? That wasn't a dramatization. That was Tuesday on Hoth. Let's say, for argument's sake, that you avoid the wampas. Lucky you. Now you're still stuck outside, in a full-body freezer with the elements trying to claim your soul. You consider building a fire, until you remember there's nothing to burn. No trees, no fuel, no flammable garbage. Just more snow. Endless snow. And you might think, well, maybe I'll just walk until I find Echo Base. Sure, buddy. Echo Base. A secret rebel installation buried under tons of snow and camouflaged like an Arctic ghost. That's like trying to find a contact lens in a sandstorm. With your eyes closed and no hands. The average human, even one that grew up on Earth with central heating and coffee, can only survive in these conditions for a few hours before hypothermia sets in. First, you'll lose feeling in your fingers, then your speech slurs, then your heart says, nah, I'm done, and everything just shuts down. You become one with the snow. Congratulations. You've officially become a Hoth landmark. Maybe, just maybe, a rebel patrol swoops in with heat sensors and spots your lifeless form, drags you back into a Bacta tank and revives you, if you're lucky. But don't count on it. You're not Luke Skywalker. There's no Han Solo galloping toward you on a tauntaun with a rescue plan and a thermal blanket. You're just some poor soul who wanted to visit the Star Wars galaxy and ended up becoming an ice cube with dreams. And here's the worst part. This isn't even the most dangerous planet. This is just the one with snow. So next time someone says they want to live in the Star Wars universe, ask them one question. Cool, can you survive Hoth? Because you, my friend, wouldn't last a day. Living on Dagobah, the swamp that swallows you whole. Dagobah is unlike any place you've ever imagined. It's a planet steeped in mystery and cloaked in a constant thick fog that blurs the line between reality and shadow. The moment you set foot here, or if you crash your ship in the tangled wilderness, you're enveloped by the overwhelming sensation of dampness and decay. This is a world where sunlight rarely pierces the dense canopy overhead, where the air itself feels heavy and humid, sticking to your skin like a second layer. The terrain is a sprawling, endless swamp, a labyrinth of mud, tangled roots, and stagnant pools that seem to stretch as far as the eye can see. The ground beneath your feet is soft and unsteady, a mix of mud and rotting vegetation that threatens to swallow you whole if you're not careful. Every step feels like a battle to keep your footing as your boots sink deeper into the muck. Dagobah's landscape is alive in ways both beautiful and terrifying. Towering trees stretch toward the sky, their gnarled branches twisting and bending in unnatural ways. Thick vines hang down like living curtains, swaying gently in the faint breeze, their surfaces slick with moisture and algae. Strange bioluminescent fungi glow faintly in the dim light, casting eerie colours that flicker across the dense undergrowth. It's a place that seems suspended between life and death, where every inch of ground hides a story written in roots, water, and decay. The wildlife here is as strange as the landscape. The swamp is home to creatures adapted to survive in this harsh, wet environment. Small amphibious animals with bulging eyes dart between lily pads, their calls echoing faintly across the water. Larger, more sinister beings lurk beneath the surface, silent, powerful, and deadly. You never know what might emerge from the murky depths at any moment, and the constant uncertainty keeps your senses sharp, your nerves on edge. The food situation on Dagobah is grim. Edible plants are rare, and many are toxic or bitter. Unless you're a skilled forager or hunter, you'll find yourself surviving on whatever the swamp reluctantly offers. Fish-like creatures that slip through the water can be caught if you're quick and patient, but they're not easy prey. Some of these creatures have razor-sharp teeth or camouflage skin that blends perfectly with the murky water, making them nearly invisible until it's too late. Eating here means embracing the unknown and accepting that some meals will be less than appetizing. Dagobah's climate is relentlessly damp. The humidity clings to everything. Your skin, your clothes, your equipment, never letting go. You'll quickly find that staying dry is impossible, and constant wetness leads to its own set of challenges. Skin irritation, chafing, and infections become real threats, especially as the swamp's countless insects feast on any exposed flesh. Mosquito-like bugs buzz around relentlessly, their bites itchy and persistent, making sleep a precious and fleeting luxury. Speaking of sleep, finding a safe place to rest on Dagobah is one of the biggest tests of survival. The swamp teems with life, and much of it isn't friendly. Predators lurk in the shadows, eyes glinting in the dark, always searching for an easy meal. Even the plants can be dangerous. Some have barbed vines or poisonous spores that can incapacitate an unwary traveller. The ever-present fog muffles sound, but also tricks the mind, turning every rustle or splash into a potential threat. Alone here, your imagination can be your worst enemy. But Dagobah is not just a hostile environment, it is also a place of deep connection to the Force. This planet is saturated with life energy, a living, breathing entity that resonates with those sensitive to the Force. For Jedi in exile like Yoda, Dagobah is a refuge, a place to reflect and meditate, to heal and grow away from the chaos of the galaxy. It's a paradox, harsh and unforgiving to the body, yet deeply nurturing to the spirit. If you were to spend a day here, you would learn humility. The swamp teaches patience, resilience, and respect for the natural world. It strips away arrogance and forces you to confront your vulnerabilities. Few who come here leave unchanged. Would you survive a day in this swampy exile? Or would Dagobah claim you as just another lost wanderer, swallowed by its endless shadows? Felucia, you wake up coughing, your lungs thick with the damp, almost syrupy air. Your eyes blink open to a kaleidoscope of colours. Blue leaves, purple vines, mushrooms the size of speeders. At first glance it's beautiful, surreal, almost peaceful. But you'd be wrong. This is Felucia, and if you're here, then I've got good news and very bad news. The good news is, well, you're alive, for now. The bad news? The jungle knows you're here, and it's hungry. You try to stand, but the ground beneath you is soft. Not mossy, fleshy. It pulses slightly beneath your weight. That's not normal. A few feet away, a fat bulbous plant shudders and releases a hiss of bright blue gas. It smells sweet, inviting, but your instincts scream, no, that's a spore pod, and it's not here to freshen the air. Welcome to one of the most dangerous places in the galaxy. Felucia doesn't just kill you with predators. It tricks you, tempts you, hallucinates you into walking off cliffs or hugging a vine that wraps around your neck. The plants are alive. The fungus watches. Even the mud wriggles. You start walking. Every step is a guess. The vegetation is so dense it swallows light, even though 2 suns shine above. Shafts of light pierce through the towering fungal stalks, but it only makes the shadows deeper. A giant blossom droops above your head. It opens slowly, revealing a mouth lined with soft-looking petals and teeth. You move fast. A buzzing noise fills your ears. It's not mechanical, it's alive. A cloud of Felucian sting and gnats darts past your head. You slap one away, but it bites. Your skin tingles, numbs. That one sting will mess with your nervous system for an hour. Now imagine a whole swarm. Still think you can handle it? You stumble into a clearing. It's silent, too silent. The plants here lean inward, forming a circle. In the center, something lies still. You approach, slowly, carefully. It's bones, stripped clean, still smoking. The jungle is tidy that way. Just as you're turning to leave, the ground heaves. A creature, something like a rancor, but warped by evolution and spores, rises from the forest floor. Its body is covered in bioluminescent moss. Its eyes glow with a strange intelligence. It doesn't roar, it watches. This is a Felucian jungle rancor, and unlike its cousin from Tatooine, this one doesn't fight for sport. It kills quietly, strategically. You don't run, not yet. Maybe if you're still, it'll ignore you. It doesn't. You sprint. The jungle is a blur. Every plant you touch stings or burns. The humidity clings to your skin. The hallucinations start. You swear you see someone ahead, a friend, a Jedi. You follow. You don't have a choice, but it's not real. It was the spores again. Felucia doesn't just break your body, it breaks your mind. Suddenly you fall into a pit, lined with squirming vines. They coil around your legs. You're trapped. And then silence. The jungle rancor stares down at you, but something distracts it. A low growl echoes through the clearing. A balieg, a massive worm-like predator that burrows through the forest floor, erupts from the earth. The rancor leaps to attack it. You're forgotten. For now. You crawl out, covered in filth. Your breath is ragged, your arms shake, and it's only been an hour. You find shelter in the hollow of a giant dead tree. Inside, the walls are soft. Too soft. Then the walls pulse. The tree's not dead, it's hibernating. You get out just before it seals shut. You finally collapse near a pool of water. You're so thirsty, so tired. You lean in to drink, but the water moves. It parts. There's something under the surface. You step back just in time. The marlit, a carnivorous amphibian, lunges, teeth gnashing where your face had just been. And here's the real kicker. Felucia is canonically beautiful. Peaceful, even, according to the Jedi. They trained here. They died here. General Aayla Secura was gunned down on this very soil during Order 66. She never stood a chance, and she had training. What do you have? A pair of boots and the bad luck of waking up here. Even the native Felucians, tall spiritual beings, view off-worlders with suspicion. They're attuned to the Force. They know you don't belong. If the jungle doesn't finish you, they might. Not out of cruelty, just balance. So what's your plan? Wait for a rescue? Try to find a signal? You'd need to climb one of the fungal towers, and those are swarming with venomous insects. Some the size of your arm, and even if you send out a signal, will anyone come? Will they get here before the jungle swallows your coordinates? Felucia doesn't hate you. It doesn't even know you, but it's alive. Every root, every blossom, every breath of air here is part of a larger, ancient organism, and you're just a temporary inconvenience. So go ahead, try to survive. But if you're lucky, you'll wake up, back in your bed, realizing this whole thing was a dream. And if not, well, at least the mushrooms are pretty. Kessel. So, you wake up choking, again. But this time, it's not spores or gas. It's the air itself. It's thick with dust. Your mouth is dry, your nose clogged, and your throat burns like it's been scraped raw with sandpaper. You blink open your eyes, and everything is dim. It's not night. It's just that the sun never shines here. You're on Kessel, friend. At first glance, it looks like a broken moon, barren, cracked, uninviting. But what you're breathing, that's spice dust, and it's in the air, in your lungs, in your bloodstream. Some of it will make you hallucinate, some of it will kill you, and some of it might make you feel like you're a Jedi for about 5 minutes before your nervous system gives out. You're not in the spice mines yet, but you're close, too close. Your first mistake, moving. Every step you take kicks up more particles. You walk past a ridge and hear a noise behind you. Then silence. You turn. No one's there. But you swear you heard chains dragging. Kessel's been a prison planet for centuries. Some of those who die here never leave. Rumors say their spirits remain, especially in the deepest shafts. You try to find shelter, but there's no vegetation, no water, no wind, just rocks, and the massive scars in the earth that plunge straight into the heart of the planet, the spice tunnels. You follow a narrow metal path that once served as a conveyor line. It creaks beneath your feet. Below, the mines yawn open, like the throat of a beast. Echoes rise. You can't tell if they're from machinery, whispers, or something alive. Suddenly, a warning light flashes red in the distance. An old siren whines, rusty and faint. You don't know what it means, but your gut tells you it's time to hide. You duck behind a crumbling crate, and a few moments later, a group of pikes passes through the clearing. Their armor is pristine, their faces hidden. They're not here for you, not yet, but you make eye contact with one, just for a second. He pauses, sniffs the air through his mask, then moves on. You exhale. That was close. The Pike Syndicate runs Kessel, and when they find stowaways, the best you can hope for is forced labor. The worst? Well, let's not think about that. Let's talk about the mines. You eventually find an entrance, half collapsed. You squeeze through, and now you're inside. You thought it was bad outside? Inside, it's worse. The walls pulse faintly. Everything is coated in a yellowish film. The spice veins glow, throbbing with unnatural color. And then you hear them. Screams, they're coming from deep below. Dozens of voices, overlapping, echoing through the rock. Some scream in pain, others in madness. A few are just laughing, hysterically. You realize the spice isn't just in the walls, it's in the air. And it's getting to you. You stumble deeper. You need to get out, Bios. But you're lost. You see lights ahead. Other workers, survivors. You move toward them, but the figures don't have faces. Their heads are flickering, glitching like a broken holovid. You blink. They're gone. Now you're seeing things. Now you're hearing things. The walls begin to close in. Not physically, but your mind tells you they are. That's Glitterstim spice at work. It messes with your perception, enhances your senses to the point of pain. You hear your own heartbeat in your ears. You can smell your sweat. You feel every individual speck of dust landing on your skin. It's unbearable. You drop to your knees. Suddenly something lurches out of the darkness. Not a creature, no, something worse. A drill droid, ancient, half malfunctioning. Its sensors click to life. It sees you as a loose resource, a lost unit. It reaches out with pincers, trying to tag you for collection. You scramble away just in time, diving into a side tunnel. There's no light here, nothing but pitch black. You sit, you breathe, you try to stay sane. But you feel like you're being watched, because you are. Somewhere, deep in the unregulated tunnels, live the energy spiders. Native to Kessel, massive, lurking in abandoned shafts. Blind, but they feel vibrations. Some say they're not even spiders. Some say they're force-sensitive or partially intelligent. All anyone agrees on is that they eat spice and people. You hear something skitter behind you. You don't wait to find out, you run. You don't know where you're going. There's no map, no signs, just tunnel after tunnel. Eventually, by dumb luck or destiny, you burst back onto the surface. Your lungs on fire, your eyes watering, your mind still tangled in illusions. The stars above look twisted, bent. You're not sure if it's the real sky or just spice withdrawal. And that's when the asteroids arrive. Because here's the kicker. Kessel orbits near the Maelstrom, a swirling mass of gravitational anomalies, electrical storms, and rogue asteroid fields. Ships crash here all the time. One wrong hyperspace jump, and you're a smear across a rock. The air here will eventually kill you. The spice will rot your brain. The pikes will enslave you. The mines will break you. And if you're lucky, you'll die before you meet the spiders. But hey, Han Solo made the Kessel run in 12 parsecs, right? You probably won't make it 12 minutes. Dathomir. You come to with the feeling that something is watching you. Not just one thing, many things. You don't hear birds, you don't hear bugs, you don't hear anything you'd normally associate with a forest. But make no mistake, you're surrounded by trees. Gnarled, blackened, twisted trees, their bark sharp like bone, their limbs bending in unnatural ways, like they've been listening to the wind for too long. Every branch creaks, and every creak sounds like a whisper. Welcome to Dathomir, the planet that chews up force sensitives and spits them out with horns on their heads and a thirst for vengeance. The soil beneath you is red, not orange, not brown, blood red. And it's not just the dirt. Everything here carries a tint of dried rust and rot. The air is thick, not just with moisture, but with energy. You feel like you're walking through a soup made of ancient curses. Every breath you take tastes like mold, ash, and something you can't quite place. Something that reminds you of fear. You try to orient yourself. There are no landmarks, no roads, no signs of civilization. Only that sensation again, that you're not alone, and you're not. The Night Brothers, hulking tribal warriors, descendants of Zabrak blood and Sith corruption, live in the rocky outcroppings, tucked away in tribal villages that do not take kindly to strangers. But it's not them you need to worry about. They're territorial, they're aggressive, but they're not the ones pulling the strings. That would be the Night Sisters. You hear singing, soft, melodic, almost hypnotic. It sounds like a lullaby you were never meant to hear. It draws you forward. You don't want to follow it, but your feet move anyway. That's Dathomir's first trap, curiosity. You walk through a narrow gulch and emerge in a clearing full of mist. The singing stops, then movement. A figure in a black cloak glides across the clearing. Her feet don't touch the ground. Her face is pale, her eyes glowing faintly green. You try to speak, but your throat tightens, your voice disappears. She lifts a hand and suddenly you're paralyzed. A test, that's all this is. You're either a threat or an ingredient. She circles you like a predator, then disappears into the mist as quickly as she came. You're free, for now. But the magic of Dathomir lingers inside you, a psychic fingerprint. You've been marked. The planet has noticed you, and the planet doesn't forget. As you stumble onward, you begin to see signs, literally. Strange symbols carved into trees, skulls mounted on wooden spikes, talismans hanging like wind chimes. Some of them whisper, others just scream. You start to hallucinate, or at least you think you are. A loved one appears in front of you, someone you lost. They smile, reach out to you, but their skin starts to crack, flake. Their eyes turn red. It's not them. It never was. That's Dathomir's second trap, illusion. The Night Sisters don't need to kill you with blades or spells. They'll have you destroy yourself with grief, guilt, or madness. You find an abandoned structure, maybe a crashed ship, maybe an ancient temple, maybe both. You crawl inside, you try to rest. You think maybe, just maybe, you'll survive this. Then you hear something breathing behind you. You turn, nothing. You shine a light, still nothing. You sit back down, and that's when the Dathomirian rancor crashes through the wall. It's not like the one you saw in Jabba's palace. This one is wild, bigger. Its skin is blackened, scarred with tribal symbols. It smells you before it sees you. You run, but there's nowhere to go. The jungle moves against you. The vines tangle your feet. The roots grab your ankles. The forest wants to watch, because that's Dathomir's third trap. There is no escape. You trip, you fall. The rancor is above you. But before it strikes, a Night Sister appears again. She lifts a hand, and the rancor stops. She's smiling. She likes you. You won't die here. Not yet. No, now you belong to the clan. You're a pet, a toy, a spell component. Maybe you'll be trained. Maybe you'll be sacrificed. Depends on their mood. But one thing's for sure, you'll never leave. Dathomir is not a planet you visit. It's a planet that takes. It takes your breath, your mind, your body, and eventually, your soul. So yeah, you wouldn't last a day. But if you did, you wouldn't be you anymore. Exegol. You open your eyes, but there's nothing to see. Just darkness. Not the kind of darkness you get when the sun sets, or when a room lacks windows. No, this darkness is alive. It hums, it breathes, it waits. You feel it pressing on your skin like wet cloth, like the air itself is trying to suffocate you. You've landed, or rather been dropped, on Exegol, the hidden world of the Sith Eternal. No coordinates, no maps, no star maps in any Jedi archive ever dared point here, because Exegol doesn't exist on charts. It exists in whispers. You take a step and the ground crunches beneath your feet. You look down. It's not sand, it's not rock, it's ash. Ash of something, someone. And as your eyes slowly adjust to the dim blue glow leaking through the clouds above, you see it. The planet's sky doesn't flicker with stars. It flickers with lightning, flashing silently across churning storm clouds, revealing shapes of towers that rise like fangs from the wasteland. You feel small here, insignificant, because you are. Exegol isn't a planet, it's a wound in the galaxy, and you just walked into it barefoot. In the distance you spot monolithic statues, towering figures carved from black stone, each wearing ancient Sith robes and glaring down with empty eyes. They were here before memory, before the Jedi, maybe even before time. Their mouths are open, frozen in some eternal scream or chant. You approach one of them, and then the whispers start. Not from the statue, from your own mind. They say your name, they speak your fears, they offer you power. And just as you're about to scream, a bolt of lightning cracks across the sky, and you finally see it. The Citadel, a fortress of jagged stone and obsidian spikes sunken deep into the planet's flesh. It doesn't just look evil, it is evil. You feel it pulling at you like gravity, and you move. Not because you want to, because something inside you is already walking. The closer you get, the more wrong everything feels. The air becomes electric, thick with static and voices. Not just Sith lords of legend, thousands of them. Murmuring in languages long dead, arguing, laughing, screaming. And in between the towers, you see them. Clones, some failed, some still growing in tall glass vats, eyes closed, twitching, stuck in eternal birth. Others patrol the corridors, masked, voiceless, obedient. You try to avoid them, but they don't acknowledge you. You're not a threat, you're not even real to them. You reach the central chamber, a vast chasm of stone, metal and lightning. Platforms float where no physics should allow. Monks in red robes chant in circles. You see massive star destroyers, half submerged in rock and storm, being built underground, their cannons aimed upward, not outward. And there, at the center, slumped on a mechanical arm like a puppet with its strings cut, is him, the Emperor. Somehow, still alive, or not alive, maybe neither, maybe both. You lock eyes with what used to be Palpatine, and for a moment, time collapses. You see all of it. Every betrayal, every manipulation, every order executed. The face behind every shadow of war. His voice is inside your mind now, not speaking words, but just a cold, relentless presence. You stumble back, he lifts a finger, and your heart stops for just a beat, just enough to remind you that you're not in control here. You never were. This world is made of submission. You are either a tool or you are discarded. You run, but there's nowhere to run to. The storm closes in. The Force itself bends sideways here. You scream, but your voice disappears into the howl of the wind and the chanting of 1,000 Sith ghosts who now call you by name. You fall to your knees in the ash, not because you're hurt, because you're seen. Exegol is not a battlefield, it's a throne, not a place of war, but of design. And it didn't bring you here to kill you. It brought you here to show you that you were never free. Alderaan. For once, it doesn't start with fire. There are no howling storms, no lightning-choked skies, no sulfur pits bubbling under your feet, no creepy Sith tombs whispering your name. Instead, there's sunlight, clean air, tall snow-capped mountains stretching toward a cloudless sky. Birds circle overhead. The wind smells like pine, lavender, maybe even a hint of rain that hasn't arrived yet. If you didn't know better, you'd swear this was paradise. And in a way, it was, until it wasn't. Because this is Alderaan, the jewel of the core worlds, the heart of peace, art, education, philosophy, and ultimately, tragedy. You wake up in a soft bed, carved from polished wood, in a villa nestled on a cliff's edge. The walls are open to the elements, a warm breeze moving the silk curtains. This place is old money, generational. Everything is handcrafted, nothing mass-produced. The view stretches over endless forest, and in the distance, you can see the capital city, Alderaan, shining like a crown above the mountain valley. It feels like a planet where nothing could go wrong, which is exactly why it did. You're dressed in soft robes, not armor. There's no need for it here. Alderaan is disarmed, by law and by principle. It's one of the few planets that never bought into the military-industrial complex of the Empire. Its people chose pacifism, not out of fear, but because they believed in the idea of a better galaxy. Idealism is currency here. You hear it in the street markets, where people quote philosophers the way others talk about sports scores. You see it in the music halls, where children perform ancient compositions instead of practicing drills. You smell it in the libraries, which smell like fresh ink and old parchment, not oil and blaster grease. But the trouble with ideals, they make you a target. You wander through the capital, past beautiful temples of education and elegant towers of culture. Alderaan didn't just teach science and history, they nurtured ethics. They believed deeply in the Senate, in democracy, in diplomacy. And for that, they signed their own death sentence. You glance up, and for the briefest moment there's a shimmer in the sky, too high to see clearly, just a shape, a crescent, something massive, silently parked in orbit, and then nothing. No alarms, no evacuation, no panic, just peace, for about 30 more seconds. Then in a moment that rewrote galactic history, Alderaan became silence. You're standing in a field, then you're not. There's no time to run, no time to scream, no time to be heroic. There is only light, a blinding, impossible light, a beam that doesn't just vaporize buildings, it vaporizes culture. Entire libraries, memories, schools, poems, philosophies, wildlife, all of it gone. In less than a second, you are part of the dust now, you and 2 billion others. The Death Star didn't just destroy a planet, it destroyed an idea, that peace, beauty, and diplomacy could survive in a galaxy like this, that being good was enough to keep you safe. And that's the real horror of Alderaan. Not that it burned, but that it didn't deserve to, not one bit. You might think surviving Alderaan would be easy compared to Mustafar or Hoth, but that's what makes it so cruel, because you could have spent your whole life here, believing you were safe, that you were helping build a better future, and it still wouldn't have saved you. There were no monsters on Alderaan, only victims. And the monster was watching from orbit. With a single command, Tarkin ended everything. Because he could, because power, when unchallenged, becomes cruelty. And cruelty needs an audience. So if you ever find yourself on Alderaan, breathe in that air, touch the grass, memorize the view, because it's all going to vanish. And not with a scream, but with a pulse, one that echoes across the Force forever. Umbara. You open your eyes and you can't see a thing. There's no sunlight, no dawn, no warm breeze brushing your skin, just blackness. Not the peaceful kind, not sleep, not a calm night under the stars. No, this is suffocating, unnatural, living darkness, the kind that wraps around you like a predator, watching, waiting. Your lungs tighten, you instinctively reach out, but your hands vanish into thick air. Umbara's atmosphere is dense with toxins. Not enough to kill you instantly, but enough to make every breath feel like it's dipped in acid. A faint bioluminescent glow pulses in the distance, like veins under skin. It's the only light source, and it's moving. So are you. You don't know how you got here, but you're not alone. Something's slithering through the underbrush, something mechanical, and something not. Welcome to Umbara, a planet locked in perpetual twilight, orbiting a dim star, shielded by an atmosphere so thick sunlight can't break through. The entire surface is shrouded in shadows, with landscapes that bend perception, jagged cliffs, pulsing alien flora, and a constant sense that reality here breathes. You're never quite sure if what you're seeing is alive, or just pretending to be. You try to take a step. The ground pulses beneath you. You've stepped on something, or into something. It retracts, like a muscle, and suddenly you're sliding down a slope of slick black moss that smells like battery acid. You crash into a cluster of tall translucent stalks, plants maybe, but they react violently to your presence. One of them lashes out, stinging your arm, your skin bubbles, your heart races. This planet is not just alien, it's hostile to everything. Even the air you're breathing is laced with trace amounts of neurotoxins. Prolonged exposure will warp your perception, cloud your thoughts, even bend your loyalties, as clone troopers once learned the hard way. Because you're not just fighting the environment here, you're fighting your own mind. You stumble into a clearing, and for a second, just a second, you think you found safety. There's a strange structure here. It looks like coral merged with machinery. It pulses with soft purple light, like it's alive. You think maybe it's abandoned tech, or some kind of shelter. You're wrong, it's a weapon. Everything on Umbara is. You hear a whirring sound, and then a red bolt of plasma slams into the dirt beside you, vaporizing the moss in a flash of flame. Another blast tears past your shoulder. You drop to the ground, scrambling for cover. But there is no cover. The trees are too thin, too brittle, and too busy retracting themselves away from the noise. You're being hunted by Umbaran soldiers, ghost-like, emotionless warriors bred in darkness, trained to fight without light, without mercy, without warning. They don't yell, they don't taunt, they just move, quiet, calculated, and devastatingly efficient. You might remember them from the Clone Wars. The 501st fought them during the Battle of Umbara, a conflict so brutal, so confusing, that soldiers turned on each other before the battle was over. General Pong Krell, a Jedi, betrayed his own clones here. Blinded by power, corrupted by visions of the Sith, he fed his men into meat grinders, sacrificing them in waves just to test their resolve. That's what Umbara does to people. It bends the line between ally and enemy, between order and chaos, between Jedi and monster. You hear a hiss, and suddenly you're blind again. Not just from darkness, but from a gas cloud. Umbara's native defenses are chemical, bursts of fog that scramble your senses. Your eyes water, your stomach turns, and your balance collapses. You fall face first into the mud. You try to stand. You can't. Above you, more lights appear. Not stars, droids, spindly, deadly, and numerous. The Umbarans don't rely on outdated separatist tech. Their machines are advanced, hyper-agile, and damn near invisible until they're too close. You're outgunned, outclassed, and out of time. You won't survive the hour. Because Umbara is not a battlefield. It's a trap. A living, breathing organism that hates the light and everything that brings it. You wouldn't last a day here, not because you're weak, but because the planet doesn't want you to. And Umbara always gets what it wants. Ahch To. You wake up to the sound of crashing waves. But this isn't some tropical vacation. There are no beaches, no drinks with umbrellas, no cozy resorts, just cold. Sharp oceanic cold that bites your skin before your eyes even open. The wind here howls, not through forests or streets, but through sacred stone ruins. You sit up, dazed and shivering, on a ledge overlooking an endless sea. Grey, choppy, unwelcoming. The kind of sea that hides secrets, not beauty. Welcome to Ahch To, the birthplace of the Jedi. Or more accurately, the tomb of their origin. This is where it all began. The first Jedi temple, ancient texts, now damp with saltwater and mildew, preserved in crumbling alcoves beneath mossy stone. A place meant to guard balance in the Force, but there's no balance here anymore. Only stillness, abandonment, and something else. Regret. The island is isolated, completely. No cities, no technology, no supplies, no ships. If you're here, it's because the galaxy wanted you forgotten. Even if you sent out a distress signal, no one would come, no one would hear it. The planet is shrouded in shifting storms, an electromagnetic interference that keeps communication dead. Like the Force itself is silencing this place. And maybe it is. You stand up, the rocks are slick with rain and algae, and the cliffs are jagged like teeth. Below, foaming waves smash endlessly against the stone. There's no shoreline, no path off this island, only steep, winding stairways carved into the mountains centuries ago, leading to quiet stone huts and towering spires that cast long shadows even when the sun refuses to shine. And what sun? Ahch To is nearly always cloaked in clouds. A grey ceiling stretches across the sky, pierced occasionally by streaks of light that only serve to remind you how rarely warmth visits this place. You walk, you hear something squawk, you spin around. Lightsaber, blaster, weapon, nope. A porg, a strange bird-like creature, somewhere between adorable and disturbing, stares up at you with massive black eyes. They're everywhere, on Ahch To, hundreds of them, flapping, nesting, crying, and sometimes stealing your food. But don't get too cozy. You'll learn quickly. They're not your friends. Nothing here is. You head toward the ancient temple. Inside, it's darker than outside, despite the massive open windows. The walls are carved with symbols in a language older than the Republic. You don't understand it. You're not supposed to. This isn't for you. The air smells like burnt incense and wet stone. And there, in the center, the Jedi texts. Books, real ones, fragile, leather-bound volumes. The original teachings, before the Order, before the Code, before the Fall. Luke Skywalker once stood here, alone, tormented, trying to unlearn everything the Jedi had become. You can still feel the weight of his isolation in the room, a heaviness that presses against your chest. Ahch To has no monsters, no gunfights, no screaming battles, but it crushes you in another way. With silence, with time. This planet feeds on reflection. It forces you to face what you've done, what you've failed to do. The dark side doesn't rage here, like on Mustafar. It whispers, it waits. If you came here for clarity, you'll find only more questions, and maybe a mirror. And then there's the caretakers, the Lanai, strange fish nun-like creatures who maintain the old temple structures. They don't speak basic, they don't like you, they tolerate you the way one might tolerate a stray animal wandering through a sacred garden. You'll get in their way, you'll knock over sacred pots, you'll offend them without meaning to. You're not supposed to be here. This place isn't for tourists, it's for exiles. So no, you wouldn't last a day on Ahch To. Not because it's violent, but because it knows how to drown you from the inside. It buries you in your own thoughts. It isolates you until you question your every memory. It sits with you in silence until even your regrets begin to echo off the walls. And then, it lets you rot, peacefully. You arrive on Korriban. The moment you step off your ship, the air feels heavy. Not heavy with moisture or heat, but heavy with history. A suffocating weight pressed down by thousands of years of darkness, death, and ambition. Korriban is a planet unlike any other. A barren desert world orbiting a dying star. Its scarlet sky seems to bleed into the endless dunes. But it's not just a desert. It's a tomb, a graveyard for Sith Lords. For thousands of years, this planet has been a crucible of hatred, cruelty, and power. The very soil is soaked with the blood of fallen Sith. Their spirits trapped in crypts and tombs buried beneath the sands, forever restless. The natives call it Moraband, an ancient name, whispered with reverence and dread. As you trek across the dunes, the wind howls, carrying dry sand that stings your skin like 1,000 tiny needles. The temperature is brutal, scorching by day, freezing by night. There's no comfort here, no fresh water, no shade, only the shadows of ruins. Massive ziggurats rise like jagged teeth against the horizon, remnants of Sith temples and academies. These are not beautiful ruins, they are oppressive, designed not to welcome, but to intimidate, to remind you that you are nothing but a visitor, and that this land belongs to the dark side. You reach one such structure, the Valley of the Dark Lords, tombs carved from black stone, etched with Sith runes and dark sigils. Here lie the remains of some of the most powerful Sith Lords in history, Ajunta Pal, Marka Ragnos, Naga Sado. Their legacies still echo, fueling the dark side energies that saturate this place. The force here is different. It's thick, tangible. You feel it clawing at your mind, whispering promises of power. The dark side wants you to fall, to lose yourself to rage, fear, and hatred. It's a test, a challenge, and a curse. Many who come here never leave the same, or never leave at all. But Korriban isn't just about ancient graves. It's also home to the Sith Academy, a brutal school where apprentices are tested, tortured, and broken to forge the next generation of Dark Lords. The lessons here are cruel. Your every move is watched by shadowy instructors who expect nothing less than absolute loyalty to the Sith Code. Fail to prove your strength, you die, show weakness, you're cast out. Survive, you gain power, but at a terrible cost. Walking through the valley, you might stumble upon Sith holocrons, ancient repositories of Sith knowledge. But beware, these holocrons pulse with dark energy, and opening one risks flooding your mind with visions, secrets, and madness. Some Sith Lords used Korriban as their personal fortress of secrets. Dark experiments in alchemy, forbidden force rituals, and even attempts to conquer death itself were conducted here, hidden beneath layers of stone and shadow. And then there's the wildlife, carnivorous faunskers, insect-like krayt dragons, and terrifying creatures that lurk beneath the sands. Alone in the desert night, you'd be vulnerable to their attacks. Survival here isn't just about fighting other Sith or battling the Force. It's about fighting the planet itself. The locals? Sith purebloods, a fierce, proud species born from Korriban's harsh environment. They are ruthless and loyal only to the dark side. They view outsiders with suspicion and contempt. Try to earn their trust, and you might find a powerful ally, or a deadly enemy. But here's the truth. You don't come to Korriban for peace. You come for power. To walk where Sith Lords walked, to tap into their legacy, to be tested by a planet that has shaped the darkest history in the galaxy. If you're not strong enough, Korriban will consume you, your mind, body and soul. So, would you last a day here? Probably not, because Korriban isn't just a planet. It's a living testament to the cost of ambition, the price of hatred, and the endless hunger of the dark side. And if you do survive, you'll never be the same. Malachor. Imagine waking up on Malachor, a planet scarred beyond recognition, where the ground itself screams with the echoes of ancient battles and cataclysms. This isn't just any battlefield. This is the site of the greatest and most devastating Sith conflict ever known, where light and dark clashed in a war so fierce it nearly shattered the Force itself. The air hangs heavy and thick, filled with ash and the metallic scent of decay. The sky above is a dull red, perpetually bruised with storm clouds that never fully clear. There's no sun here, only shadows cast by twisted spires of blackened stone and the remnants of ancient war machines half buried in the soil. Malachor is a planet that tastes of death and destruction. You wander through a jagged canyon, the ground beneath your feet cracked and fissured, pulsing faintly with dark energy. This is no ordinary geology. These scars were etched by a weapon of unimaginable power, a Sith superweapon, a device capable of tearing apart entire fleets and reshaping the fabric of reality itself. Its name? The Mass Shadow Generator. A weapon so lethal it ended the Great War, known as the Great Hyperspace War, but at a terrible cost. Here the Force feels raw and wild, not the calm, flowing energy you might sense in a quiet Jedi temple, but chaotic, raging like a storm. The dark side saturates everything. It's a force that whispers promises of strength, but demands sacrifice. And the planet itself seems alive with malevolence, as if it remembers every death, every betrayal, every scream. Malachor isn't hospitable. There's no lush vegetation, no comforting wildlife. Instead you find twisted, corrupted creatures that have mutated from the dark energies, creeping silently through the ruins. Their eyes glow with unnatural light, watching your every move, waiting for a chance to strike. The landscape is dotted with remnants of ancient Sith temples, crumbling but still imposing, their walls carved with cryptic runes and Sith iconography. These ruins are the final resting places of Dark Lords long forgotten by time, yet their spirits linger, restless and hungry for new apprentices to carry on their legacy. But the most terrifying feature of Malachor is the Malachor Sith Temple itself, a dark monolith looming over the landscape, rumoured to be built atop a Sith holocron vault of unparalleled knowledge. This temple is a nexus of dark side power, drawing Force users like moths to a flame. Many who enter never leave, their minds shattered by visions or consumed by rage. Walking its halls, you might hear faint echoes of past conflicts, lightsabers clashing, screams of agony, whispered curses. Some say the temple's corridors shift and change, trapping the unwary in endless loops, a labyrinth designed to break down the will. Malachor is also infamous for being the site of the Darth Bane's Rule of Two doctrine's ancient precursor battles, where the Sith began truly embracing the idea of secrecy and subtlety after centuries of open war led to their near extinction. It's a place where Sith philosophy was forged in fire and blood. The land itself seems to teach a brutal lesson, that power without control is destruction. Surviving on Malachor requires more than physical strength. You must resist the seductive pull of the dark side's madness, the temptation to surrender to anger, hate and despair. Most fail. And then there's the matter of the planet's unstable geology. Tremors shake the ground unpredictably. Deep fissures gape open without warning. Lava bubbles near the surface. One wrong step, one moment of distraction, and you could be swallowed whole by the planet's fiery belly. Yet despite the danger, Malachor calls to those who seek ultimate power, Sith initiates, dark side acolytes, and even Jedi tempted by forbidden knowledge. It is a crucible, testing all who dare set foot upon it. But heed this warning, Malachor does not forgive weakness. So, would you last a day on Malachor? Would you survive the dark whispers, the burning skies, and the legacy of war etched into every stone? Or would you become just another lost soul, a victim of the planet's insatiable hunger for darkness? Bro, Malachor is a brutal reminder of the Sith's true nature, a place where ambition and destruction go hand in hand, and only the strongest can hope to endure. Welcome to Tatooine, where shade is a myth, water is more valuable than credits, and even the sand itself feels like it wants you gone. You don't wake up in a cozy bed. No, you're lying on a slab of scrap metal, inside what barely qualifies as a shelter, surrounded by nothing but wind-blown dunes and rusting droid parts. The only sound is the dry hum of the horizon, broken occasionally by the low growl of an old swoop bike or the bark of a creature you hope never gets close. Here, the mornings begin with heat and end with more heat. The twin suns, Tatooine and Ahch To, don't just rise, they attack. The moment their light hits your skin, it's as if you're standing inside a forge. There's no such thing as cool morning air here, just different stages of sweating. You squint against the endless beige, but there's no relief in sight. The desert stretches forever, and the horizon always plays tricks. It makes you think there's something out there. Maybe a settlement, a well, a tree, but it's just more sand. Now you've got two problems: dehydration and what's called moisture farming. You see, water isn't just rare, it's practically sacred. Locals use machines called moisture vaporators, little spindly towers that pull water out of the air molecule by molecule. Sounds clever, right? Except they barely work, and the moment you set one up, it'll either get stripped by Jawas, sabotaged by Tuskens, or simply break in the heat. So you're thirsty, tired, and probably wondering why anyone would live here at all. But people do. People like the Lars family once did. Humble moisture farmers, scraping a life from sand. Their homestead? A bowl carved into the earth with a few domes, all half swallowed by the desert. And it wasn't just a home, it was the beginning of something massive. Luke Skywalker walked those grounds, looked out at those same suns with restless eyes. But before Luke, this planet raised Anakin. And his story, well, we'll get to that soon. First, let's survive the locals. Tusken Raiders, the Sand People. Some call them primitive, others call them deadly. They travel in single file to hide their numbers, wear layered robes to endure the elements, and carry Gadurfi sticks that crack bones with ease. If they spot you alone, you're as good as vapor. Their territory shifts constantly, and they don't like visitors. They especially don't like off-worlders. And you, my friend, are the definition of off. Even if you avoid them, you're not safe. Ever heard of a crate dragon? Think of a serpent the size of a starship, buried beneath the sands. Silent, waiting. The only warning is the vibration under your feet, but by then, it's already too late. If the planet doesn't kill you slowly, something beneath it just might take care of it faster. And then there are the Jawas, those little robed scavengers with glowing eyes. They aren't violent, but they'll strip your gear clean if you blink too long. They roll through the dunes in massive sand crawlers, those mechanical fortresses on treads, collecting scrap and old droids. If they find you unconscious in the sun, they won't help you. They'll just take your boots and sell them to the next poor soul who passes by. You might think, I'll find Mos Eisley, I'll get help. Well, that's a different kind of danger. Mos Eisley isn't a sanctuary. It's a cantina-stuffed melting pot of smugglers, bounty hunters, and deals that end with someone getting shot under the table. The streets are packed with sand-dusted speeders, and locals who'd sell your location for a handful of credits. There are no heroes here, only survivors. The nights? Oh, they aren't much better. The suns drop suddenly, and all that heat bleeds away into the black. Tatooine turns cold, bone cold, the kind that seeps in through your clothes and makes your teeth chatter. But don't start a fire. Smoke draws attention. And out in the dunes, attention is never a good thing. So yes, you're on Tatooine. Congratulations. But surviving the heat, the creatures, the locals, and the dark, that's another story. And we haven't even talked about slavery, crime syndicates, and what really happened in the shadows of those twin suns. But that's for part 2. So, you made it through your first full day on Tatooine. You didn't collapse from heat stroke. You weren't devoured by a crate dragon. You avoided the blaster bolts, flying through Mos Eisley's back alleys. But don't celebrate just yet, because now we're going to peel back the sunburnt surface of this forsaken world and show you the deeper, darker reality that makes Tatooine one of the most hopeless corners of the galaxy. This is more than just a desert planet. Tatooine is a wound, a forgotten wound on the body of the galaxy, festering in plain sight. And at the center of that wound, slavery, an ancient practice outlawed in the core worlds, but alive and thriving out here in the Outer Rim. You think you have rights on Tatooine? Not unless you have credits, and not unless you belong to someone who's willing to fight for them. Out here, the only law is ownership. Let's rewind the suns for a moment, back to a boy named Anakin. He was born in Mos Espa in a tiny room made of dust and stone. He and his mother, Shmi, were the property of a Toydarian junk dealer named Watto. That's right. The chosen one, the one who would one day become Darth Vader, began his life sweeping sand out of a cluttered workshop and fixing broken pod racers. A child with the Force flowing through every cell, reduced to bartering scrap for food. But Anakin wasn't unique. Slavery here is as normal as the heat. Children born into it, families sold apart without notice, collars with explosive chips, masters who play favorites one day and punish the next. There's no Republic to intervene, no Jedi patrols, only silence. And everyone just keeps surviving. That's the Tatooine way. And who allows all of this to continue? Who feeds it? Jabba the Hutt. Jabba isn't just a crime boss, he's the king of the desert, the slug-like gangster whose palace looms like a broken tooth across the wastelands. His influence stretches across systems, but his throne is here, on Tatooine. He controls the spice trade, the slave market, the pod races, the bounty hunters. Nothing moves on this world without his slimy approval. Ever wonder why Anakin was so quick to turn to fear and anger later in life? Why that rage always simmered just under the surface? It started here, on Tatooine, in chains, watching his mother suffer, unable to protect her. And when he finally returned years later, full of Jedi training, it was already too late. She died in his arms, brutalized by Tusken raiders. That moment in the middle of Tatooine's desolate night cracked him open. He didn't just kill her captors. He annihilated the entire village, every last one of them. The women, the children. No mercy. Only fire and sand and screaming. That was the true birth of Darth Vader, not on Mustafar, but right here, on the planet where he was born. And yet somehow the Force is not absent from Tatooine. In fact, it clings to the planet like sweat. Two of the most powerful Force users in history, Anakin and Luke Skywalker, both emerged from this place. Obi-Wan Kenobi chose to hide here, living in exile in a cave, watching over Luke from a distance like a silent sentinel. Why? Why would a Jedi Master choose this brutal rock to disappear on? Because in its hopelessness, Tatooine hides things well. It's overlooked, forgotten, and yet pivotal. The desert hides not just bones, but destiny. Even years later, during the rise of the New Republic, Tatooine remained a lawless graveyard. No galactic government ever truly brought change here. And those who try, like Cobb Vanth, the Marshal of Mos Pelgo, are just temporary lights, flickering in a storm of dust. Good men, trying to hold back centuries of cruelty, with little more than a blaster and a sense of duty. And you've just been wandering through this living memory. Every stone carries a story. Every whisper of wind might be the ghost of something greater. When you squint against the sun, maybe you'll see Luke staring at the horizon. When you walk through Mos Espa, maybe you'll feel the echoes of Anakin's footsteps. But stay long enough, and Tatooine starts to take pieces of you. It grinds you down. It steals your hope. You start accepting that pain is normal, that water should taste like rust, that freedom is a luxury for other systems. And that's why you wouldn't last a day here, not truly. Not if you still believe in fairness or warmth or redemption. Tatooine doesn't offer any of those. It offers survival, if you're lucky. Now, where should we head next? Would you prefer the toxic winds of Nal Hutta, the rotting jewel of the Hutts? Or maybe the acid-laced rains of Vyun, where Vader once made his home after falling fully into shadow? Let me know. The galaxy is vast, but the suffering is personal. Naboo, beneath the beauty. You wake up to the sound of gently flowing water and the chirping of unseen birds. The sun casts its soft golden light over rolling green hills, and nearby, a glistening lake reflects the sky like a mirror. Congratulations, you've just arrived on Naboo, the jewel of the Mid-Rim, often praised for its serene landscapes, classical architecture, and deep cultural roots. At first glance, it feels like a perfect dream. But hold that thought, because under all this beauty, Naboo has its own quiet dangers. And unless you're prepared, you won't last very long. You see, the first thing that might fool you is the calm. Everything looks so peaceful, so untouched by galactic chaos. The capital city, Theed, is famous for its domed palaces, white stone bridges, and gently curving canals. The waterfalls around it are not only beautiful, they're colossal and thunderous, dropping into deep ravines that disappear into darkness. Imagine exploring those cliffs without a guide. One wrong step and Naboo becomes your last vacation spot. But we're not just worried about heights. The wildlife on Naboo is deceptively dangerous. The surface might host fluffy sharks grazing in open fields, but go swimming in one of Naboo's lakes and you're playing with fate, because beneath the glassy surface lies a vast network of deep dark caverns, winding tunnels, and bottomless pits of water that stretch across the planet's core. And what lives down there? Well, remember the bongo ride in The Phantom Menace? That was no joy cruise. Giant carnivorous sea monsters like the OPC killer and the terrifying Sando Aqua monster roam those depths. No matter how good a swimmer you are, you're nothing but a snack to these ancient blind underwater beasts. And speaking of the depths, let's not forget the Gungan city of Ahch To Gunga. You might think it's a peaceful bubble haven beneath the surface, but try showing up without an invitation and you'll quickly find out that the Gungans are not big fans of outsiders poking around their sacred homes. And that's if you survive the swim. Now let's talk weather. Naboo doesn't have deadly snowstorms or volcanic eruptions like Mustafar or Hoth, but it's not all rainbows either. The swampy regions get heavy rainfall and thick mists that can trap you for days. With murky waters, sudden sinkholes, and nearly invisible predators, it's easy to get lost, or worse. Ever heard of the Colo clawfish? It hunts in the core, but isn't above sneaking up into flooded caverns. Not everything that lives in the deep stays down there, but the real challenge of Naboo might be political. The planet has seen its fair share of power struggles. This is the birthplace of Padme Amidala and Sheev Palpatine. Yes, that Palpatine, the one who became the Emperor. Beneath Naboo's peaceful surface lies a hidden legacy of manipulation and control. Theed's royal court may be elegant, but it's also filled with protocol, hidden alliances, and centuries of guarded secrets. Get involved in politics here, and you might find yourself in the middle of something far darker than you bargained for. Even the people, kind, artistic, and intelligent, aren't always what they seem. Naboo is a planet of masks. Public image means everything, and behind the poise is often pressure, paranoia, and ancient responsibilities tied to the planet's preservation. You're just a visitor, but to them, you're either a guest or a potential threat. So yes, Naboo is beautiful, postcard perfect, but looks are deceiving in the galaxy. You've got towering waterfalls, mysterious underwater monsters, ancient political secrets, and ecosystems that can swallow you whole. The truth is, Naboo might lull you into a sense of safety with its charm, but that's exactly when it strikes. And that's why, unless you're very careful, you probably wouldn't last a day. So, you made it through the waterfalls, and somehow survived the lurking monsters of the core. You kept your distance from the Gungan territories, and managed not to insult any of the Queen's handmaidens. Impressive. But don't get too comfortable, because while Naboo looks like a paradise on the surface, its past is thick with shadows, and its very soil is steeped in secrets that most of the galaxy has forgotten or chosen to ignore. Let's begin with a little-known fact. Naboo is not just scenic, it's ancient. The planet itself rests atop a vast, unstable crust. Its core isn't molten like Earth's. No, it's liquid water, deep and pressurized, riddled with caverns that extend into the unknown. Some scholars and Force sensitives believe these aquatic depths may be more than just geographical oddities. Some even whisper that the Force itself feels strange here, twisted, echoing with something old, something that was never meant to be disturbed. It's not public knowledge, But many believe that Palpatine, before he was Emperor, before he even became Darth Sidious, found something on Naboo. A hidden cave, a shrine, an artifact left by something older than the Jedi, older than the Sith. Whether it was Rakatan in origin, or from some even more ancient Force sect, we don't know. But what we do know is that Sidious did not leave Naboo the same man he was before. The kind, well-mannered senator was a mask. And Naboo? It may have been the first place he truly connected with the dark side. Think about that. The most powerful Sith Lord in galactic history was born on a planet of art and music and beauty. That's the paradox. That's what makes Naboo so unsettling. Because for every flower-filled meadow, an elegant columned palace, there's a secret passage, a concealed chamber, or a political chess game being played by people with smiling faces and hidden intentions. And let's not forget about the planet's role during the Clone Wars. Naboo might not have been a battlefield, but it was never far from the storm. It became a symbol, a pawn in larger galactic schemes. Its leaders, like Queen Jamilia and later Queen Apilana, tried to hold on to neutrality and culture, but Palpatine's looming shadow was always there. He used Naboo's image to manipulate the galaxy. He made it a symbol of peace while planting the seeds of war. Even its most beloved figure, Padme Amidala, wasn't spared. Her palace may have shimmered in the sunlight, but she spent her life entangled in moral compromise, impossible diplomacy, and threats to her very existence. The palace guards, the processions, the ceremonies, they all hid the fact that she was constantly under surveillance, often targeted for assassination, and bearing the weight of a galaxy's expectations. Now let's go back to the Gungans. They live underwater, in a society separate from the Naboo humans. And yet, their technology is advanced, their cities are shielded, and their knowledge of the planet's aquatic labyrinth is unmatched. Some believe the Gungans hold secrets the rest of the galaxy can't begin to understand. They have legends passed down by voice and drum of spirits in the deep, of Force ghosts that didn't belong to Jedi or Sith, and of entire cities swallowed whole by the planet's shifting core. Could they be the guardians of something forgotten? And what happens if you try to go exploring on your own? Many who venture into Naboo's less-travelled swamps and underwater caves don't come back. Some say it's because of the predators. Others think there are natural gas leaks, but a few believe that some areas are guarded, not by soldiers, not by wildlife, but by echoes of the dark side, places where time bends, where your thoughts betray you, and where you forget who you are. Palpatine didn't invent the darkness, he simply learned to listen to it. So no, you wouldn't last a day on Naboo, not the real Naboo, not the one beyond the travel holovids and Nabooian postcards, because beneath the marble bridges and golden sun, there's a hidden world built on danger, duality, and deception. It is a planet that raised a queen and created an emperor, and it never forgets. Bespin. So here we are, floating high above the gaseous depths of Bespin, in a city suspended in the sky like a dream that forgot to wake up. Cloud City. It looks peaceful from afar. Soft pastels, endless sky, gentle breezes, and elegant architecture that seems to float with the grace of music. But don't be fooled, because beneath this perfect polished exterior lies a world of corruption, danger, betrayal, and one misstep away from falling into nothingness, literally. Let's start with the basics. Bespin is a gas giant. That means you're not walking on solid ground here. You're floating inside a very small window of atmospheric safety. If you go too high, the air thins out and freezes your lungs. Too low, and you're swallowed by crushing pressure and deadly gases. The only safe zone? A narrow band called the life zone. Everything depends on altitude. One broken platform, one power failure, one bad decision, and you're plummeting straight into a roiling chemical abyss. Now, the primary reason anyone comes to Bespin is for the Tabana gas. It's valuable, it's volatile, and it powers blasters, starships, and war machines across the galaxy. The mining of Tabana isn't just labor-intensive, it's dangerous. Exposure to unfiltered gas can cause hallucinations, organ failure, or spontaneous combustion. And yet, workers risk it daily, often for low pay, just to keep Cloud City running and the rest of the galaxy armed. And no one asks questions, because that's how things work in Bespin's economy. Quietly, cleanly, and always with a smile. Speaking of smiles, let's talk about Lando Calrissian, The man turned this place into a luxurious haven, or so the brochures would say. But look closer, and you'll see a political balancing act worthy of a high-wire performance. Cloud City had no army, no real defense. Lando had to keep both the Empire and the Hutts off his back by playing nice, making deals and cutting corners. That charm of his? It wasn't just personality, it was survival. And then came the betrayal. You remember it. The carbon-freezing chamber. The dim orange lights. The scream of pain as Han Solo was encased in frozen agony. All orchestrated beneath the shining halls of this beautiful city. Darth Vader made Lando bend the knee in seconds. Cloud City, for all its elegance, couldn't stand against a single Star Destroyer. And once Vader had his prize, he left the city like a ghost, scattering its sense of safety into nothing. But let's dive even deeper, literally. Below Cloud City are the forgotten parts of Bespin, maintenance shafts, abandoned mining platforms, and strange phenomena in the depths. Some believe there are species living in the gas layers below, sentient, ancient things, shaped by the pressure and chemicals into something that isn't quite life as we understand it. There are stories from the original miners about lights in the clouds, whispers in the darkness, and equipment that vanishes without explanation. Others talk about how the force feels muted down there, as if something beneath the clouds absorbs energy, bends perception, and clouds memory. Jedi who've visited the lower levels have reported losing track of time, or seeing visions of events they couldn't explain. Cloud City itself, it's full of secrets, luxury apartments for crime lords under fake names, secret auction rooms where Sith artifacts have changed hands behind closed doors, rumors of cloning labs funded by Imperial leftovers. People come here to disappear, to hide things, to bury truths beneath charm and polished durasteel floors. And if you're a visitor, you're a pawn. Step out of line. Maybe you'll be escorted to one of those lower levels where no one will hear you scream. Or maybe you'll be given a private tour of the gas processing plant, one with a very long fall and no rails. So would you last a day here? Maybe, if you're lucky, if you keep your head down, if you don't cross the wrong smuggler or stare too long at the wrong door. But even then, all it takes is a shift in the winds, and Cloud City forgets you ever existed. Because on Bespin, the danger isn't what you see, it's what hides behind the clouds. You made it through your first day in Cloud City, barely. The elegant corridors and endless skies gave you the illusion of safety, but deep down, something felt off, like a place where too much silence hides too many secrets. And that's because Cloud City isn't just a mining operation or a high-class getaway. It's a mask, a delicate illusion stretched over a darker, stranger reality. Let's start with something few ever talk about, the ghost shifts. Miners and engineers working the Tabana gas platforms often report strange occurrences during night cycles. Tools moving on their own, machinery that powers up without anyone touching it, and whispering voices over the comms that sound like long-dead co-workers. It's so common they have a name for it, the gas echoes. Some believe it's just stress or hallucinations from low oxygen and high pressure. But the veterans, the ones who've spent years in those lower levels, they won't talk about it at all, and that silence is far more terrifying than any rumour. Then there's the carbon freezing chamber. You'd think it would be shut down after what happened to Han Solo, but it wasn't. Instead, it became an underground curiosity, an attraction for black market tours, crime syndicates, and bounty hunters who want to test out ways of freezing enemies without killing them. Some claim experiments are still being conducted down there, involving Sith alchemy and carbonite technology that traps not just the body, but the soul. Yeah, you heard that right. There's a whisper in the darkest corners of Cloud City that a Sith holocron once made its way here, briefly, before being sealed beneath the chamber in an energy-locked vault. It's said to be cursed. Anyone who tried to open it either disappeared or was found babbling nonsense, staring at the sky like they'd seen something no human mind should ever glimpse. Lando apparently had it sealed off for good, but some say it's still down there, waiting. And what about the people? Cloud City is full of smiles and smooth talkers, sure, but those high society types you see strolling past waterfalls and indoor gardens, many of them aren't who they say they are. Some are war criminals from the Clone Wars living under new identities. Others are high-ranking officials of now fallen empires, hiding in plain sight. Intelligence agencies from across the galaxy have files on Cloud City, describing it as a soft haven for shadow figures. No war, no fighting, no resistance. Just secrets traded behind locked doors, over quiet dinners, and in art galleries full of stolen relics. It's a place of masks. Even Lobot, Lando's quiet cybernetic assistant, has his mystery. His mind was fused with a computer interface by the Empire, robbing him of parts of his personality. But what most don't know is that his internal systems were once connected to an experimental Imperial AI designed to predict rebellion movements. And though Lobot is calm, helpful, and loyal, no one truly knows what's left of his original self in there, or what might be hiding inside the cold circuits of his brain. Let's go lower now. Beneath the main platform is a labyrinth of engineering ducts, mining tunnels, and abandoned catwalks. Some aren't even mapped. They're considered structurally unstable and off-limits. But there are reports, uncorroborated, of course, of strange energy readings from those levels. Blue glows, gravity fluctuations, and even distortions in time perception, where explorers claim to have lost hours in what felt like minutes. Some believe there are pockets of force-sensitive gas deep in the layers of Bespin, reacting to nearby life forms, twisting thoughts, and even conjuring illusions from memories. That's not confirmed. But when even seasoned Jedi avoid those levels, you start to wonder what they're not telling us. And we haven't even mentioned the creatures. While most people assume nothing lives in a gas giant, some miners tell stories of enormous winged shapes far below, glimpsed in the storm clouds, pulsing with bioluminescent light. They don't attack, they don't communicate, they just watch. Silent sentinels drifting through the atmosphere like living zeppelins. Are they real, or the result of long-term Tabana exposure? Either answer is terrifying. So what does this mean for you? You might think you're safe sipping wine in a luxury suite above the clouds. But Cloud City is a house of cards, floating above a swirling hell of secrets. The political deals, the haunted corridors, the rumors of dark tech, and the unblinking things below. It's all held together by a whisper of balance. And it doesn't take much to make it fall. All it takes is one sudden Empire visit, one gas leak, one holocron unlocking something long buried. So yeah, you might last a day in Cloud City, but if you really stay long enough to learn what's underneath the charm, you might not ever come back. The planet that builds death itself. So you've crash-landed on Geonosis, or maybe you were dropped here on purpose. Either way, your odds, not great. The moment your boots hit the reddish sand, your nose fills with dust so fine it practically scratches your lungs from the inside. The wind is constant, howling through jagged rock formations, like a chorus of whispers, warning you to turn back. But there's nowhere to go. The horizon is endless, an ocean of dry canyons, baked bones, and insect wings. Welcome to the birthplace of the Death Star. Geonosis isn't just another desert rock. It's ancient, and it's alive in the most unsettling way. This world isn't ruled by cities or governments. It's ruled by hives, immense, living hives dug into mountains, cliffs, and caverns so deep they might touch the core. The Geonosians, the insectoid natives of this place, don't build in any way that would comfort your human brain. Their structures spiral, curve, and pulse. They're made from secretions, molded like clay, and sometimes they seem to breathe. The first mistake people make here, thinking it's just bugs. No, it's an empire. One with factories, slave camps, weapons labs, and a brutal caste system. At the top are the winged nobles, like Poggle the Lesser. Below them, endless workers. And at the bottom, creatures that don't even get names, just numbers. And you're not welcome. You'll hear them before you see them. Clicking, buzzing, murmuring in that strange Geonosian language that always sounds like they're debating whether to eat you or enslave you. Or both. Their eyes are large and unblinking, adapted to darkness. Which means if you're out here at night, you're at an even worse disadvantage. Geonosis never sleeps. At any hour, somewhere in the distance, machines grind away. During the Clone Wars, this planet became the Separatists' arms factory. Droid armies were stamped out by the millions. Even now, after the Republic fell and the Empire rose and fell again, there are rumors that something, or someone is still building deep underground. What they're building now? No one's sure. But scrap traders, bounty hunters, and even Sith cults have tried to find out. Most don't come back. Let's say you survive your first few hours. Lucky you. You might try to find shelter in the canyon systems. Bad idea. That's where the arena beasts were bred. Creatures like the Achle, the Nexu, the Reek. They weren't one-time gladiator monsters. They were stock, products, experiments. Geonosians were known to splice and mutate things for sport and defense. So if you see something crawling upside down along the rock wall with too many eyes and a jaw that shouldn't open that wide, don't run. You'll never outrun it here. Oh, and don't drink the water, not that you'll find any. Most surface moisture evaporates before it even touches the ground. The locals survive off underground reservoirs, but those are infested with bioluminescent fungi and blind eel things that bite before you even know they're there. The sun will roast your skin in hours. Shade is rare, and the air, while breathable, is full of fine particulates that cause lung infections in off-worlders. Even the sky has teeth. Storms sweep across Geonosis like they're alive, not just wind, full-blown electrical tempests, complete with red lightning and funnel clouds that can strip the skin off a speeder. Ever wonder how a planet could build so many war machines and still seem so lifeless? That's how. Nature itself helps bury the secrets, and then there's the silence. Geonosis isn't loud, not unless you're near a hive or a foundry. Most of the time, it's quiet, deathly quiet. And in that silence, your mind starts to wander. You imagine shapes moving in the heat haze. You think you hear footsteps behind you. You might even start talking to the rocks, just to hear a voice. That's when you know you've been here too long. So, if you've somehow found yourself on this planet, the best advice anyone can give you is this. Don't move. Don't go looking for help. Don't explore. Don't try to find shelter in an old droid factory. Those things have security systems that don't know the war ended. Just stay still, stay quiet, and maybe something bigger won't notice you. But the truth, it already has. You've managed to avoid dehydration, arena beasts, and winged sentries. Good for you, but now you've done something far worse. You found a way inside the hive. At first, it doesn't seem so bad. The rock is cool, the air is still. The light is dim but constant, coming from amber-like sacs hanging from the ceiling, glowing faintly with organic light. You hear the soft clicking of Geonosian workers as they pass, not attacking, not even acknowledging you. Maybe you think you've been accepted? You haven't. Geonosian hives are not homes. They are machines. Living, breathing factories built into the bones of the planet itself. Everything is functional. The curved walls pulse slightly with warmth, suggesting they aren't carved but grown. These tunnels weren't made with tools. They were secreted from the bodies of drones, bred for a single purpose, construction. And they don't stop working, ever. You're walking through something's lungs. As you go deeper, the temperature rises. The walls change colour, redder, more veined. You begin to notice sounds in the background, a rhythmic thumping, like a heartbeat echoing from deeper chambers. You're now below the surface, where the Empire once came to negotiate dark deals. And if you're really unlucky, you'll find what they left behind. Let's talk about the Empire's return to Geonosis. After the Clone Wars, the planet was deemed quarantined by Imperial decree. Official records claimed the Geonosians were too dangerous, too secretive. But the truth is more chilling. The Empire didn't fear Geonosis, they needed it. Deep beneath the surface, they built laboratories, black sites, and assembly yards. Geonosis became the cradle of the Death Star project. Before the construction moved to Scarif and Eadu, it began right here. The blueprints, the prototype beams, the initial reactor chambers, all of it was birthed below these hive walls, buried under miles of rock and secrecy. And when the Empire was done, they sterilized the planet. Orbital bombardment, biological weapons, starvation. Call it what you want. The Geonosians were exterminated en masse. Not just defeated, erased. Why? Because they knew too much. And because someone decided that no one's hurt, not even the original builders, could be allowed to remember. But something strange happened. The extermination wasn't perfect. Some hives went dark, others evolved. Years later, off-worlders who dared to explore Geonosis told stories of mutated Geonosians. Pale, silent, glowing from within. More insect than sentient. like something had changed them, twisted them. In the deepest tunnels, some say they encountered Queen Karina the Great, an ancient ruler who used brainworms to control the dead. Clone troopers, Jedi, her own kind, she turned corpses into puppets. And her hive, still active, still feeding. The Empire tried to bury her too, but things buried in Geonosis have a habit of waking up. Now, you're in one of those tunnels. You feel vibrations in the floor, not footsteps, something else. The walls tremble. You hear skittering from all directions. You shine your light and see hundreds of eyes staring back at you from tiny holes in the wall. They're watching, waiting, deciding. Somewhere, the scent of decay leaks into the air. If you turn around, you might glimpse old stormtrooper armor, fused to the rock, half melted by acid, the bones still inside. You wonder if they were buried alive, or worse, kept alive to serve the hive. Some of the armor still twitches. You want to escape, but there's a problem. This hive isn't just a place. It's alive, it remembers. And you're leaving footprints in its memory. There are stories whispered among bounty hunters and smugglers, of a chamber deep in the hive that contains remnants of the Death Star project. A forgotten prototype, maybe even a working core, but no one who's gone in search of it has ever returned. Some say the hive itself protects it. Others claim the Geonosians have become something more, a kind of collective ghost, a memory that refuses to die. Even now, Imperial remnants send probes to Geonosis, silent droids that scan for signs of activity, then vanish. Maybe it's paranoia. Maybe they know that somewhere, the original engineers of destruction are still building, still waiting, still remembering the betrayal. And you're just a visitor, a mistake, a heartbeat that doesn't belong. Sooner or later, the hive will notice. It always does. You can try to run back to the surface, but Geonosis has a way of twisting your path. Every tunnel looks the same, every light leads deeper, and the last thing you'll see, if you're lucky, is a pair of translucent wings in the dark, followed by silence. True silence, because on Geonosis, once the hive accepts you, you never leave. Congratulations, you've landed on Jakku. The good news, you're alive. The bad news, you're in the middle of one of the most unforgiving deserts in the galaxy, a vast barren wasteland stretching beyond the horizon. Jakku is not a planet for the faint of heart or the ill-prepared. It's a desert world located in the mid-rim, far from the core worlds and bustling hubs of the galaxy. The sun burns hot and merciless, sandstorms whip through the broken landscape, and water, the most precious resource in the galaxy, is scarce. You'll spend most days searching for shade that is hard to find beneath the endless waves of sand dunes. But Jakku isn't just a boring desert. It's a graveyard, a monument to the galactic conflict that once tore the galaxy apart. Why? Because Jakku was the site of a massive battle, a final clash between the New Republic and the remnants of the Galactic Empire. The Battle of Jakku was fierce, brutal, and decisive. It was the last stand for the Empire, the final chapter in a war that reshaped the galaxy forever. This battle left behind a landscape filled with wreckage. Star destroyers, crashed TIE fighters, shattered AT-ATs, and broken remnants of war litter the sands. Some are half buried, others tilted like giant metallic tombstones against the horizon. These hulking giants of metal are home to scavengers and explorers who roam the desert, searching for lost technology, parts, and anything valuable enough to survive another day. You might think these relics are just junk, but to those who live here, they are life. Salvage is currency on Jakku. If you want to survive here, you'll need to learn the art of scavenging. Jakku's native people, and the various drifters who call it home, have adapted to this harsh world by mastering the ability to find value in the forgotten. They search starship remains for parts to trade, weapons to defend themselves, or even rare data chips containing lost knowledge. But beware, scavenging is dangerous. The wrecks are unstable, often guarded by rival scavenger gangs, or lurking creatures adapted to the desert. The sand can shift suddenly, swallowing explorers whole, or hiding traps left by the previous occupants of the crashed vessels. Jakku's ecosystem is minimal but surprisingly complex. Sandworms, enormous creatures that burrow beneath the dunes, can swallow whole scavenger vehicles without warning. The desert storms bring violent winds that can strip the flesh from bone if you're caught unprepared. And then there are the locals. The Jakku people are tough, hardened by a lifetime on the sands. They have their own codes and customs. Outsiders are not always welcome, especially those who come looking to plunder without respect. Respect here isn't just polite, it's survival. But Jakku is more than a desert and a graveyard. It's a place with secrets. Buried beneath the sand, beneath the wreckage, lies something that could change everything. Some say it's lost Jedi artifacts, others whisper about ancient Sith relics. And there are rumors of a mysterious Force presence that draws people here, something unseen but powerful. No one knows exactly what it is, but those sensitive to the Force sometimes feel a strange pull when they land on Jakku, a sensation that something important is hidden here, waiting to be found. For now, though, you're left with the harsh sun, the endless dunes, and the silent giants of war scattered across the planet. Survival is your first challenge. Learning to navigate the vast deserts, avoiding the dangers of sandstorms and predators, and bartering with the locals for water and shelter. It's a hard life, but it's the only one you've got. So, you're still alive. That in itself is an achievement. The suns of Jakku haven't baked your brain yet. The sandstorms haven't buried you alive. And maybe, just maybe, you've managed to trade some scavenged junk for a sip of water and a piece of ration bread. You're tougher than most who wander into this desolate oven of a planet, but don't get too comfortable, because Jakku has secrets, big ones, the kind that don't stay buried forever. Let's start with the strange fact that Emperor Palpatine himself was deeply invested in this backwater planet. Before his fall, he commissioned the construction of a highly classified facility known as the Observatory, hidden beneath the sands. This wasn't some forward Imperial base for planetary control. It was far more mysterious. Built to study the unknown regions and events beyond the edge of the known galaxy, the Observatory was a piece of a much larger puzzle. It was part of Palpatine's contingency plan, his twisted insurance policy for the future of the Sith and the Empire. Some believe that Jakku itself was chosen specifically by Palpatine after receiving strange signals or visions from deep within the Force. Others think he was trying to access something ancient beneath the planet's surface, something older than the Republic, older than even the Sith we know. That part, still a mystery. What we do know is this: when the Emperor fell at Endor, the plan was activated. Loyal Imperial officers were instructed to retreat to Jakku, to gather for one final stand, not to win, but to burn the remains of the Empire and allow only the most fanatically loyal to survive. That's what led to the Battle of Jakku, where the New Republic forces clashed with Imperial remnants in one of the largest and most desperate battles since Endor. The result? Devastation. Entire Star Destroyers crashed onto the surface, the skies rained fire, the desert became a junkyard of fallen giants, and when the smoke cleared, the Empire was dead. Or so they thought. You see, some of the survivors of that battle went underground, literally and metaphorically. Some joined what would later become the First Order. Others disappeared into the unknown regions, taking Palpatine's secrets with them. And some believe that traces of his consciousness, dark and fragmented, remained tied to Jakku through unnatural Force experiments deep within the Observatory. That's right, rumours persist of dark side anomalies on Jakku, strange sensations, voices in the sand, time distortions in certain areas of the wreckage fields. Pilots have gone mad flying over them. Droids behave erratically. Some scavengers swear the wreckage shifts at night, like the planet is alive. Some even say the Force feels wrong here, bent. If you're Force sensitive, you may feel it too, like something is watching. Not just a presence, but a test. Jakku doesn't give you power freely. You have to survive its judgment first. And then there's the girl. You've heard of her. Alone, scavenging in the hollowed-out belly of a Star Destroyer, living on scraps and trading for meager portions. Her name was Rey, though she didn't know the legacy hidden in her blood. Even she was a mystery. Why was someone so powerful, so connected to the Force, abandoned here of all places? Coincidence? Doubtful. There are too many strings pulling in the dark, too many shadows at play. Even Luke Skywalker's Jedi Temple didn't draw as many questions as Jakku has. Because this place isn't just about what happened, it's about what was planned to happen. The future was seeded here. Palpatine's plan, the First Order's rise, even Rey's origin story, all of it tangled in Jakku's dry, cracked soil. And yet the galaxy forgets Jakku. They write it off as a useless desert planet. But you've seen the truth. You've walked through the bones of history. You've heard the groaning of ancient wreckage beneath the desert wind. Surviving here is not about strength. It's about adaptability. It's about listening to the silence and learning what not to disturb. It's about knowing which shadows to avoid and which ones to chase. Because sometimes, if you look too long into the remains of a Star Destroyer, the Star Destroyer looks back. So, if you're still out here, crawling through sand and steel, remember this: Jakku is more than it seems. It's not just a battlefield or a junkyard. It's a vault, a scar on the galaxy, a place where ghosts linger and power waits to be found by those brave or foolish enough to seek it. Now the only question that remains is, will you make it through the night? Kamino, you wake up to the sound of rain, not a light drizzle, not a summer shower, a storm that never stops. The windows hum with pressure, the waves below roar like a beast in chains, and the sky is painted in endless grey. Welcome to Kamino. There is no sun, there is no sky, only clouds and lightning. You've arrived at the edge of the known galaxy, where the Republic once turned to shadows to prepare for a war no one saw coming. There's no land here, not a single grain of sand. Kamino is an ocean planet, covered entirely in water. Beneath those churning waves lies unknown depth, and above them, on tall, narrow stilts, are the sterile white cities of the Kaminoans. Tall, pale beings with long necks, serene voices, and disturbing patience. They're not hostile, but they're not comforting either. Their calm, soft-spoken nature conceals a species that has mastered one of the most dangerous arts in the galaxy, cloning. You walk through the halls of Tipoca City, one of Kamino's major facilities. The lights hum, the air is cold, every surface gleams like it was cleaned 5 seconds ago. You pass by rows of growth chambers, glass tubes filled with nutrient fluid, each holding a life form in stasis. Dozens, hundreds, thousands, all the same face, all waiting to be activated. This is where the Grand Army of the Republic was born. You're walking through history. This is the womb of war. The Kaminoans were contacted in secret by a Jedi named Sifo Dyas, or so the story goes. A Jedi who foresaw a coming war and ordered a clone army to defend the Republic. But things didn't add up. Sifo Dyas died under strange circumstances. The request was manipulated. Count Dooku, under the alias Tyrannus, stepped in to shape the army to Sith intentions. The clones were designed not only for war, but for betrayal, and that betrayal came as Order 66. It's chilling to walk these halls and realize that behind the peaceful facade, every tube, every training chamber, every datapad was part of a carefully orchestrated trap. The clones were bred for obedience. Loyalty was engineered into their bones. Kamino wasn't just a factory, it was a chessboard. The Jedi never stood a chance. But the Kaminoans, they didn't care. They were scientists, not philosophers. They delivered what was ordered, they perfected it. Their moral compass was never the point. The credits flowed, the research expanded, and they remained indifferent to the war their creations ignited. Still, as you move through this labyrinth of white corridors, something starts to feel off. Not just because everything is too perfect, too quiet, it's something else, the clones themselves. You notice how the younger batches march in synchronized formations, recite the same phrases, eat at the same speed. Their personalities are forming, but they're limited, shaped by conditioning, by accelerated aging, by constant training. Their entire lives are designed by others. No choice, no childhood, just duty. Then there are the variations. Some clones like RT troopers, clone commandos, or the Bad Batch were intentionally altered. Enhanced strength, greater independence, experimental traits. Kamino wasn't just producing soldiers. They were pushing boundaries, testing limits, creating new forms of life with the precision of a scalpel and the coldness of a machine. And you, as an outsider, are beginning to see the layers. Kamino is a contradiction. Beautiful and sterile, advanced and cold, peaceful, yet the birthplace of unthinkable violence. The Kaminoans move like ghosts through their own cities, checking data and adjusting gene sequencing protocols. They never stop, and they never explain. You're not sure whether they see you as a guest or a variable in their calculations. Outside, the storm hasn't stopped. It never does. Kamino's surface is chaos, but below, it's cold logic. That's what makes it so unnerving. You're floating above a world where life is engineered in secret, raised without freedom, and deployed to die. And no one ever really questioned it. The Republic took the clones. The Jedi accepted them. The galaxy turned a blind eye. That's Kamino, a planet where the future of the galaxy was built in a lab, and no one asked what would happen when the storm finally reached them. The rain hasn't stopped. It never will. On Kamino, storms are eternal, but the silence inside Tipoca City feels heavier now. Like the walls themselves remember something they'd rather forget. The war is over. The Jedi are gone. The Republic is dead, and what remains is not a victory, but a void. The clones won, and then the Empire discarded them. Kamino was no longer the center of the galaxy's attention. The endless shipments of troops, the frantic coordination of battles, the booming demands of the Republic, all of it vanished. What was once the beating heart of a hidden war machine became a forgotten outpost on the edge of the stars. The Kaminoans didn't panic. Not at first. They were professionals, and professionals adapt. But something was wrong. The orders from Coruscant stopped. The payments slowed. Facilities were audited. Imperial officials arrived, cold and rigid in their black uniforms, asking for blueprints and gene sequences. They didn't speak to the Kaminoans as partners. They spoke to them like liabilities. The clones, once treated like heroes, began to be phased out. They were aging rapidly. The Empire had no use for loyalty when it could mass recruit fresh bodies from across the galaxy, people too desperate to ask questions. The Kaminoans offered new generations of improved clones, but the answer was always the same. No, the Empire wanted obedience, not excellence. Mass control, not genetic precision. They didn't need artists. They needed factories, and the Kaminoans were not in control anymore. Rumors spread, quiet, coded, whispered between hallways and encrypted transmissions. Some Kaminoans were disappearing, others were silenced. Whole databanks were copied and then wiped. The cloning archives, the very essence of Kaminoan power, were taken by force. And then came the final blow, the destruction of Tipoca City. The skies turned black as a fleet of Imperial Star Destroyers hovered above the city's gleaming platforms. There was no warning, no negotiation, no announcement, just turbo laser fire, precise, relentless, merciless. Buildings shattered like glass. Towers collapsed into the sea. Fires bloomed against the rain-soaked backdrop. Kamino's greatest creation, its legacy, was erased in minutes. The Empire destroyed the city it once depended on. All records, all facilities, all secrets. Gone. Officially, Kamino had outlived its usefulness. But deeper than that, the Empire knew something dangerous. Knowledge is power. And the Kaminoans had too much of it. Cloning was too unpredictable, too prone to deviation, too easily replicated, but they didn't get everything. Whispers tell of certain Kaminoan scientists, like Nala Se, taken by the Empire for secret projects, moved to hidden laboratories, pressed into research not for an army, but for something darker, immortality, resurrection, Sith-level manipulation of life itself. It wasn't about soldiers anymore, it was about legacy, control, secrets once whispered by Darth Plagueis and sought again by Darth Sidious. What began on Kamino, the creation of life by artificial design, never truly ended. It simply changed hands. And so now, Kamino is a ghost, a planet of rain and waves. The cities are gone, the cloning vats shattered, the long-necked scientists who once stood like gods in white halls are scattered or dead. But if you stand on a rusted platform, barely held above the violent water, and listen past the thunder, you can almost hear them, the march of clone troopers, the hum of analysis droids, the faint hiss of nutrient tanks filled with unborn lives. Kamino was a womb, a laboratory, a prison, and a crime scene. Its legacy is carved not in monuments, but in the minds of millions of soldiers who never got to choose who they were. And now it's forgotten, swallowed by the sea, but the science, the knowledge of how to create life, modify it, twist it into weapons that lives on, in the shadows of the Empire, in secret Imperial vaults, in the twisted goals of those who followed Palpatine's path even after death. Kamino may have been drowned, but its storm still echoes. And that's it for tonight's journey across the galaxy, From burning lava to frozen wastelands, ancient ruins to forgotten moons, one thing's clear. The Star Wars universe may be beautiful, but surviving even a single day there, that's another story. So, sleep well, traveller. May your bed be softer than the sands of Tatooine, and your dreams far gentler than the storms of Kamino. Good night, and may the Force be with you.